Abuseni komo our channel so how say age politics avenue. Podcasters are trying to make headlines. And a jembre na EDB exomo ni dim any ahobraxium best say onia yanko political highways in ejedem a enya asem koto akra. Na a former attorney general Godfred Yeboah Odame etimi akasa afa ongoing prosecution cases efa MPP alleged looters no eho na case baako a okasa efa ho Buffer Stock CEO the issue a aba abonten a onua Attorney General Dominic Aini etimi agya no a yokofo akɔkye no na papa yi sɛ ohun ne sɛ saa nsɛm a ɛkɔ so yi complete torture a onua enye asɛm koto akra because ɔkyerɛ sɛ asɛm no wohwɛ mu a ɛwɔ court asizi ne passport enti sɛ nipa no sɛ wosɛn ehia na wɔnyɛ rex biem enti no one sɛ bia wɔ invite no bra another charge wɔ hɔ a ɛsɛ ka ho asɛm what taking details wo de no court but on detain ni biem best talk say mo nwura ɛyɛ na so ɛyɛ abra ɛyɛ renowned legal practitioner bi atrasia ono so battle nsema former attorney general Godfred Odame ekan yi yembo nwura nsimini.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. Now, former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah Odame has accused state authorities of using intimidation and what he describes as torture in their handling of a case involving former National Food Buffer Company CEO Abdul Wahab Hanan Aludiba. Now, he contends that the Attorney General's office and the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, have resorted to harassment and extrajudicial pressure. He said this in an interview with my colleague Noble Crosby Annan earlier today. Take a look.
It's a case that was heralded by a press conference by the Attorney General, bastardizing the character of the persons in issue, indicating that they have stolen money, they engaged in money laundering, they've acquired assets and all that. Before he filed a charge sheet, he had held a press conference indicating that he had gathered sufficient evidence and all. He used the words painstaking investigations conducted by him, indicated that these offenses had been committed. We undertook case management conference for about 5 months since January. We have engaged in case management conference whereby we're scrutinizing the evidence of the prosecution. And all manner of objections were raised by defense counsel. I mean, myself, I raised objections to, and most of them were upheld. The very recent one that was upheld was an objection to the fact that the prosecution could not introduce new material, new witness statements without leave of the court. And why would the prosecution even think of doing that? These are things that, with all respect, are so basic, and I never did it when I was Attorney General. So when the objection was raised, the court upheld it, and the next move of the prosecution was to discontinue the prosecution, withdraw all the charges against the accused person. And indeed, if you have withdrawn the charges against the accused person, I have no qualms at all. My expectation is that to the extent that you're already on bail before, court granted bail and all that, all the assets frozen already, all the passports they had seized and all, they are complied with the due process. All you have to do is to invite them to your office, maybe to sign another statement for you, or to undergo under interrogation in the presence of their counsel. But then the prosecution, the Attorney General and the EOCO decide to violate this basic right of the person. What are they afraid of? The Attorney General throws the accused person, the Attorney General and the EOCO throw the accused person into custody without any bail. They've been in EOCO custody since 10 a.m. yesterday. My lawyers, colleague lawyers have been there since the same time yesterday up to date. They have not been given access to their... It's a recent phenomenon. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what's the prosecution afraid of? The right to legal representation is basic and fundamental. It is not a gift the Republic is giving any accused person. And there cannot even be any lawful process undertaken by the Republic in the absence of counsel or with the absence of legal representation. But I'm saying that in a matter aside profile as this, and matter that indeed the parties have counsel, right to lawyers, and lawyers are available, you cannot deny them access lawyers. It never happens. And I find it very awkward. It's an attempt to intimidate them, harass them, and it's a recent phenomenon. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what's the prosecution afraid of? The right to legal representation is basic and fundamental. It is not a gift the Republic is giving any accused person. And there cannot even be any lawful process undertaken by the Republic in the absence of counsel or with the absence of legal representation in a matter aside profile as this, and matter that indeed the parties have counsel, right to lawyers.
Oh, so that's the former Attorney General, his counsel for the former CEO of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, and talking about the current modus of the Attorney General, his successor being one that amounts to harassment of accused persons, standing trial. And Justice Abdullah is private legal practitioner, also a lecturer at the UPS Law Faculty. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. And you listen to this position as espoused by the former Attorney General, for that matter. And what do you stand on this, especially on the matter of the decision by the AG to drop the charges, which he has the right to do under Article 88, but then the former Attorney General says the modus operandi is one that almost amounts to harassment of client, or his client in this particular case?
All right, thank you. It is indeed. I do not think that it is appropriate to reduce the discussion on this subject to the personality of the former Attorney General or otherwise. I think we have to look at this issue holistically as Ghanaians, and then ask ourselves whether the state can be allowed to continuously abuse the rights and freedoms of persons who are found foul of the law. I do not think that that is the right thing to do. I think that the state, regardless of the crime a person has committed, has to respect the person's right. And this issue of constantly rearresting people after having put them before court and releasing them and discharging them and then rearresting them continuously ought to stop. We must stop that. It is right. Power must be measured against international standards and the right and what pertains in democratic countries. If we don't have it here in our system, and our constitution allows us to borrow from other democratic countries if the practices are good for everyone. You cannot file charges, drop them at will, and refile at will, and rearrest the persons, and the person has to go through the same process all over again. So assuming you are arrested today, after 5 years, if trial has never ended, or gotten to the point where you can plead any of the defenses under ultra-4, what it means is that the state can easily drop the charges and literally in law refile the same charges against you and start all over again. Be arrested, in fact, literally everything you went through will start all over again if you're not like you're from a completely different court. And completely new bail, if you're lucky, you could even be denied bail, similar to what this guy is going through, our brother is going through, similar to what Gregoire Foucault went through under the entire 8 years of the MPP administration. If, as people, we do not stand up against some of these misconduct of the state, we will continuously suffer. And the day it will be your turn, there will be no one to speak on your behalf. I am sure at the time it was happening under the MPP, Wahab was smiling, possibly chilling, mid-air, as always. Today it is his turn. My position is that whether you are in government today or you're out of government, let's ensure that we do the most possible. Let's have a legislation to organize this space, because this space is the most abused space within our judicial system. Most abused. And everybody takes advantage of it on the lower scale, right? When you are not within the public space, lawyers, criminal lawyers, will tell you how these things happen almost every single day in almost every single court. So it is not a one-off thing that we are seeing today or that we saw in Gregoire Foucault. These were the popular ones. That is why people talk about them. If you ask 100 lawyers who have practiced criminal law in Ghana, there will be no single one who has never experienced some of these abuses.
But you reference, sorry to cut you, but you reference the Gregory Afoko case. And when this matter was thrown to the former Attorney General who just spoke, he said that, I mean, with what is happening now to his client cannot be equated or compared to the case of Gregory Afoko, because in his view, Gregory Afoko's case bordered on murder, and his client's case has nothing to do with murder. It's on a different charge or a different alleged crime for that matter, so the two cannot be the same.
If you're referring to what my colleague said, the former Attorney General said, I think it's the biggest betrayal of the legal profession, and is the most, in fact, unacceptable comment to come from a former Attorney General. In fact, I'll take that from any regular lawyer in the street, but definitely not the former Attorney General, because I expect that he knows better. I expect that he knows way better. In Ghana, and make a comparison between murder, one crime or the other, or one offense or the other, and say that because one was a murder, or in your mind, because one was a higher crime of the nature, and so you have the right to determine when a court of law, a court of competent jurisdiction, has admitted a person to bail, you, based on your feelings, decide that you will not allow the person to step out of police custody. I mean, what kind of right do you have as an Attorney General to abuse the right of a citizen? What kind of a right do you have, regardless of your office or whatever you have, to say that, as far as you're concerned, when a court of competent jurisdiction has made a determination of a matter, you would never respect it? You can't, not under any circumstances. Even, in fact, you can't be heard to be saying these things on air, in public. A former Attorney General should not be saying these things. A court of competent jurisdiction admits a person to bail, and you keep the person in custody just so you can mount an appeal to reverse that decision. And you did everything to prevent the person. And your principle is that because it was a murder case, and that he was found with acid on. He was found with acid or any form of evidence, and so because of that, he could be your brother, he could be anybody's friend, he could be anybody's, and so because of that, that individual's right must be abused. It is the most disappointing comment to come from anyone, particularly for a lawyer to say this, because you ought to know better. A lawyer knows that in Ghana, there is no crime that is treated any different from another crime, and that no amount of crime, you cannot know better than the judge. You cannot know better than a judge who says that, notwithstanding the charges you preferred against the person, he has been admitted to bail. You can never change that decision of a judge. Yours is to obey what the judge has said. If you disagree, your right is to appeal. But whilst appealing, the decision of the court must be followed. It must be obeyed.
All right. Lawyer Justice Abdullahi, thank you for joining us. In fact, we're running out. In fact, we've run out of time, as a matter of fact. So unfortunately, I'm not able to exhaust the other issues that you've raised. But this is an issue that is not ending today, because the full length of the interview will play parts of it tomorrow as well. So thank you very much for joining us. Justice Abdullahi is a private legal practitioner and also a lecturer. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do examination malpractice in the ongoing basic education certificate examination. Now, the breakdown of the numbers is what we're going to give to you. But recall that before the start of this BEC this year, that's just this Monday, the Ghana Education Service had banned some 40 plus invigilators from going anywhere near any exam center because of their involvement in examination malpractice in 2025. Now, guess what? After day 2, this 19 we're talking about, but just for the first 2 days, Monday, Tuesday. So today, which is where invigilator was been arrested or picked up as a result of their involvement in examination malpractice, is not added yet to the 19 we're talking about. Because if you recall, on Monday, we had told you that as of the beginning, we had close to 6 of them. That was just for day 1. But this is how the picture looks like now. Between Monday and Tuesday, 19 of them. Supervisors, invigilators arrested across some 6 regions. And some 2,303 examination centers are currently under active multi-agency strict surveillance, over 2,300 of them, because it gives you an idea of how wide and expansive the surveillance of these examination centers are. We talked about the central region, some examination centers as well in the western region that were captured as well, and in the first 6 on Monday that we picked up. And then when we talk about the regional breakdown of these 19, there's 19 vigilators. 10 of them, the Ashanti region had the highest. 10 invigilators and supervisors were picked up in the Ashanti region. 3 of them from Eastern region, 2 from Central region, another 2 from Bono region, 1 from Western region, and then 1 from the Greater Accra region. That makes up the 19 invigilators, the regional breakdown as we have it. And take a look at this. In terms of the disciplinary cases, there are 40 individuals who have been caught so far. And that was last year. For last year, as I mentioned earlier, 40 plus who were caught, 32 actively in court right now, their cases being heard, and 8 of them have been convicted and sentenced. So that's how the picture looks like right now. This is it. This is what you should pay attention to for 2026. Dr. Clementa Park is Deputy Education Minister. He's joining us on the telephone right now. Dr. Park, good evening. Thank you for joining us on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred. Good evening to our listeners across the country.
This must trouble you. I mean, the first 2 days of this BEC, and you have 19 invigilators and supervisors caught in examination malpractice. This is troubling, is it not?
Well, it's a yes and a no answer. I say so because we inherited a situation where authority shied away and failed to publicly speak out and initiate critical interventions to address examination malpractices. That has created a culture of impunity because the perpetrators got away with such acts of criminality. Now, remember that the NDC, then in opposition, was very vocal on the rising incidence of examination malpractices. If you remember, as then Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee, myself and my ranking member, the Honorable Nochu, we had filed a private member's motion asking for Parliament to set up a committee to investigate this phenomena going back 10 years. Of course, although our motion was admitted, we never had the opportunity to pursue that course of action. So with all of this as a context, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC promised that one of the things we were going to do was to crack down on examination practices because we believe such practices not only corrupt our young learners, but eventually they become a basis to devalue the certificates we give to our wards, and for that matter, the standards of our educational system.
Right.
Within the context of the region and globally. And so we have since last year been very deliberate and intentional working with WAEC, security agencies, and indeed members of the public who have supported us to alert Waik to some of these occurrences. So I say yes and no because it shows that we are truly serious and have put in place better mechanisms and a concerted effort to address this issue by getting perpetrators arrested and action taken within the context of what has happened to persons who engaged in such acts last year. No, also because we would have thought that given what we had done last year, that would have put a lot more fear in these characters and could have served as a deterrent. So what this means is that we need to intensify our effort and we need the support of the public because the dangers of examination malpractices are far-reaching and have serious consequences on the development of our nation.
Indeed.
And that is why the ministry is
we ain't some who team course or channel so mammy and I was so jemre that's an so body and dear don't be edominia. Unia the business Asia.